All right, Jim. Well, let's get to some topics and questions. And I mentioned something I wanted to ask you about earlier when you brought up Orange Cassidy. And it's something I've thought about with him recently with Bray Wyatt, because there have been reports that WWE is ecstatic over the sales of Bray Wyatt merchandise since his return, which has been a series of vignettes, a promo or two. You have no idea what he's talking about, where this is going. It's all just spooky mysticism, but it moves a lot of merch. I believe Alexa Bliss, when she was demonized or whatever the hell was going on with her, sold a lot of merch. You hated the Ultimate Warrior. When I was a kid, I loved the Ultimate Warrior. Sold a ton of merch.
Sold a lot of merch.
This has been used as a justification over time, not just recently, but over time to justify people that were pushed, the tone of the wrestling show, the direction, the characters. So with this idea that an Orange Cassidy was used the way he was for so long because he was a major merch mover for AEW, or that Bray Wyatt moves a ton of merch, so they put up with all of this. Where's the line? You know, you brought up cows being lost on the road before. If WWE just started showing cows on TV for no reason, and they just started releasing shirts that say the no reason cows, and they sold, does that justify it being on TV? At what point is there a legitimate justification because of the merch sales? And at what point do you have to say, what sells may not be necessarily what's going to help us with the overall product going forward?
Brian, you know what you call a herd of masturbating cattle?
I do not.
Beef stroganoff. But I'll tell you, the thing is, those people you mentioned are different, even though they are presented as examples of people who've sold a lot of merchandise with maybe a somewhat looser wrestling connection. With the Ultimate Warrior, he was at least presented as the guy. And that was a whole nother indictment of Vince's system. And that's, I think, probably what led to the wrestling unpopularity boom of the early 90s. Because WCW on one channel is just a rotten product with horrible leadership. And on the other channel, they've gone from Hulk Hogan, who said his prayers and took his vitamins, but God, he was over, and he had fucking matches that, you know, with the top stars of the day, and people remember, but that Warrior came in and he was a complete smoke and mirrors promotional creation with no talent for his chosen profession, except he looked great and had a bodybuilding fanatic that was the biggest promoter in the world, was going to smash him over. And of course, he's going to sell a ton of merchandise because he looked great. He looked like a kid's superhero. It's just the adults couldn't fucking stomach him. But he still, again, was the guy, was pushed on top. May indict the quality of the matches or whatever the case, but he was the top guy. With Bray Wyatt, they're trying to make him, if not the top, one of the top guys. And down there, and he's not like Warrior. He can talk. It's how he applies it sometimes that we understand. He can talk, and he can work infinitely better than the Ultimate Warrior. Even if nobody thinks he's a great worker, the bar was set so low with Warrior that you can't deny that anybody is a better worker than the Ultimate Warrior. And he's, as I said, figured in on top. So he's selling merchandise. If the guy behind that, if we can get away from the teleportation and going into spooky dimensions where puppets come alive and being burned alive and all that stuff, if he can just be a spooky wrestler, then, you know, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I'm willing to buy that and work with that. When you get down to Alexa Bliss was selling merchandise, let's face it, not only because of that gimmick and it aligned her with another merchandise seller, but because a significant portion, as we've learned by looking at Twitter and the internet, a significant portion of the WWE fan base that likes the women wrestlers are the guys that put their favorite women's wrestler picture as their profile on Twitter or have some kind of name in their handle. I love Lexi, why don't you? Or whatever the case. And that's the audience for that merchandise. If it, I don't think that Alexa Bliss should have been vomiting, Linda Blair's fucking pea soup from The Exorcist, or be sitting in the goddamn Goofy swing scaring grown adults at 5'2" and 100 pounds. And I think at that point, it's not offensive she's selling merchandise. It's more offensive she was just put in that role on television. With Pockets, you got a guy who the boss thought his one joke was funny 3 years ago, and now he's still laughing at it, and he dressed up as him on Halloween. But besides selling merchandise, what the fuck contribution has this guy made to it? It's an embarrassment. It's a joke. It makes him look minor league. If you want to use the term outlaw, you want to use the term indie, minor league, amateurish. No great matches have resulted. No great interviews have resulted. And now I think we're finding out sometimes his quarter hour was placement while they still had an audience before they'd run him off. When he used to come out at the start of the show, because now you stick him in the middle and it's the fucking war of attrition.
On that topic, I don't know if you saw the quarter-hour breakdowns for last week's Dynamite, but again, it was on a different night. It was on Tuesday. It was after the MLB playoffs, although there was a gap between the end of the game and the start of Dynamite. There was a post-show MLB special. And then the show began with Death Triangle versus the Best Friends in Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
1,062,000 viewers. Quarter two, the last 2 minutes of that match, 824,000 viewers. They hemorrhaged viewers because whoever stayed around said, let me see what's on AEW. They saw Orange Cassidy and dove off.
Because normal people don't want to look at this shit. The small bubble of wrestlers that are fans of the joke wrestlers and the kids and the playground group, they're the only ones that stick around for that shit. Grown, normal adult people that used to like wrestling and might still, if you gave them something to watch, run from these people because it looks so fucking hokey, especially compared to the physical specimens you see on the other network. So anyway, that's my answer to your question. Bray Wyatt, top guy. Can work, can talk, depends on how he's used, sells merchandise. I don't think that's a problem. Ultimate Warrior is a bigger problem. They picked a goddamn obnoxious, asshole-ish bodybuilder that didn't want to learn or want to get better and didn't understand that he was given that spot through no fucking talent of his own, but he still was the top guy and he sold merch. Expected. Nothing wrong with that. Fucking Alexa Bliss. She's in the middle group of the girls. It's a supernatural gimmick, but she's not the face of the company, so maybe that's a bonus she sold merchandise. When you're keeping the fucking clown like Orange fucking Pockets just because he sells merchandise when he's the antithesis of what you should be wanting to put on a wrestling program in 2022, it's so fucking old indie fucking has-been fucking over that shit, viral bullshit from 3 years ago, and you're featuring him just so that he will try to sell more t-shirts when he drags the show down in every way, shape, or form. That's when your product is being hurt by a guy that is just there to sell merchandise.